Next is nomenclature of acids, carboxylic acid. So what is a functional group of acid, which is COOH? And the acids are named after the corresponding alkane by replacing the terminal E of the alkane with oic acid, OIC. That is this oic acid. So see some examples. HCOOH. This is methanoic acid. Here you can see methane, and the E of methane is replaced with oic acid. And CH3COOH, that is there are two carbon, so ethane, and the corresponding acid is ethanoic acid. Here COOH and COOH, there are two acid groups and two carbon, 1 and 2, two carbon with a two acid group. So how do we name it as ethane dioic acid? That means di means two oic acid, two acid groups are here. So ethane dioic acid. And see, 1, 2, 3, 4, total 4 carbon, that means butane. And how many acid groups are here? 2. So, and butane dioic acid. But here you can see a double bond, that is an alkene. So how do we name? We should include that in the name as well. So butene dioic acid. That is the way how we name this acid. And see next one, CH3, CH2, CH, CH3, COH. Total how many carbons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So total 5 carbon. But we can name it as like 2-methyl. That is 1, 2. In the second carbon, there is a methyl group. So we can picturize it in a branch form. So 1, 2. Second carbon, there is methyl group. So 2-methyl. And what is the rest of the carbon? Total 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So butane. So 2-methyl butanoic acid. So how do you name amines? Amines are derived from ammonia. That is, each hydrogen atom from ammonia are replaced by another alkyl groups. For example, here see RNH2. That means NH3, hydrogen of NH3 is replaced with an alkyl group RNH2. That is amino alkenes. And here an ethyl group is substituted here instead of one hydrogen atom. So aminoethane, that is a primary amine, and so on. So structural isomerism. So before that, we should know what is isomerism. What is isomerism? It's a phenomenon of two or more molecules have the same molecular formula but with a different structural arrangement. That phenomenon is known as isomerism, and different structural compounds or that arrangements is known as isomers. So what is structural isomerism? That is, the isomerism arises due to the difference in the arrangement of atoms within the molecule. And this phenomenon is known as chain or skeletal isomerism. The simplest molecule that exhibits this type of isomerism is butane. You can see C4H10. C4H10. You can see CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. That is one way of representation. It's a long chain, right? And the same butane can be represented in a branched version. That is CH3, CH, CH3, CH3. Total how many carbons? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here also 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can see here the same number of carbon and hydrogen, but their arrangement is only different. That is, one is in the chain model and another one is in a branched version. So that is what known as chain isomerism. Or another example is pentane, C5H12. Pentane have 3 isomers. That means pentane can be arranged in 3 different styles. One is a long chain, CH3, CH2, 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 CH3, right? So it's a long chain. Again, another one is a branched style, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Total 5 carbon atoms are here. But 1, 2, 3. In the third carbon, another methyl group is attached. So total 5 carbon. So how do we name it? 3-methyl, and then except this methyl group, how many carbon atoms left? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So total 4 carbon, and 1 carbon in the third position. So 3-methyl butane. And another is the last isomer is 1, 2, 3. In the long chain, only 3 carbon atoms, and the rest of the 2 carbon atoms are located in the second carbon. That is, in the second carbon itself, 2 methyl groups are here. So 2, 2. And how many methyl groups? 2 methyl groups. Dimethyl. And what is the rest of the chain? 1, 2, 3. 3 carbon. That means prop or propane. So 2,2-dimethyl propane. That is another isomer name. And next one is position isomerism. So in the name itself, we can see what is position isomerism. That is isomers which are differ in their position of the functional group. For example, 1-chloropropane and 2-chloropropane. It's the same compound, same molecular formula, but structurally they are different. What is that difference? The functional group is differently situated, or functional group is situated in different position. In the first isomer, this chlorine is situated in the first carbon. But see here, this chlorine is situated in the second carbon, but the total number of carbon is not changed. That is 1, 2, 3, 3 carbon. Here also 1, 2, 3, total 3 carbon. So 1-chloropropane, and here 2-chloropropane. And another example is butane. 1, 2, 3, 4, total 4 carbon. But see, what is the difference between 1-butene and 2-butene? Ene, because a double bond is here, and based on the position of that double bond, you will get different name. In here, first one, the double bond is situated in the first position, so first butane. Here see, the double bond is situated in the second carbon, so 2-butane. So that is the difference. Next is functional isomerism. Functional isomerism means the isomerism arises due to the difference in the functional group, right? So in the compounds, they'll have the same functional group, but they can be structural arrangement will be different. See, propanol. Here a CHO aldehyde group is here. That's why you got the name propanol. And see, the propanol group is in the first position, right? 1, 2, 3. So in propane, the first position is CHO. And see, the same CHO group can be structurally arranged like one hydrogen from this group will be added to this group, and CO will exist as like this. So CH3CO CH3, now it became a ketone. So this one was an aldehyde, and this one is a ketone, but they will have same molecular formula but with a different structural arrangement. That means when you change the structure, you have got a difference in their functional group. Functional group is changed. That is, CHO is changed here into a ketonic group. That is, the difference arises in the functional group. That is functional isomerism. And the fourth one is metamerism. Metamerism is due to the unequal distribution of carbon atom on either sides of the functional group. That is, left or right of the functional group which are distributed with or which are attached with a different number of carbon atoms. Here see, left side of this oxygen is 2 carbon atoms, CH2 and CH3. And what about the right side? CH2, CH3. So here 2 equal number of carbon atoms are in the left and right of this functional group. But see here, there is not equal distribution, that is left side of this O is only one carbon CH3, and what about the right side? It is 1, 2 and 3. So total 3 carbon atoms are in the right side of this group. So you can see there is an unequal distribution of these carbon atoms. So just because of this reason, different type of isomers are developed. And next, another example is ethoxyethane. Here you can see left side of this oxygen is CH2, 2 carbon. Here is also 2 carbon. Here you can see methoxypropane. That means left side of this oxygen 1 methyl group, and right side it's 1, 2, 3, 3 carbon atoms. So that is also another example for metamerism. And the fifth one is tautomerism. Tautomerism is the isomerism arises due to the existence of a simultaneous um, dynamic equilibrium with each other. And the isomers which present in equilibrium with each other are known as tautomers. Here you can see this keto form, CO group, and alcoholic group or enolic group. So both of these isomers are in equilibrium, simultaneously in equilibrium. That's why sometimes we refer it as keto, enol tautomerism. And these isomers are known as tautomers. In order to represent the progression of an organic chemistry reaction, we use arrows. Usually, the arrows illustrate the movement of electrons as bonds between the atoms are broken or formed. Two types of arrows are used. The single barbed arrows represents the single electron movement, and the double barbed arrows represents the movement of electron pairs. For example, H2, H, there is a bond in between hydrogen and hydrogen. Here you can see the curved arrow, that is the movement of electrons. The two electrons, or that means double barbed arrows, where you will get where the electrons from this hydrogen is completely shifted towards this hydrogen. So you will get a positive charge for the loss of electrons and negative charge for gaining the electrons. But another example, here one of this bond is broken and only a single barbed arrow towards this left hydrogen and another one single barbed arrow towards this hydrogen. So that what happened? One radical. That means half charge for or the movement of single electrons towards each atom. Here, either one of these atom acquires all of the charge or all of the electrons, and here both of these atoms acquires equal number or single number of electrons. Some important points that you should keep in your mind about arrow formalism are: the first one, the curved arrow shows the direction of electron flow. That is, head of the arrow indicates electron pair destination and the tail shows the electron origin. That means head of the arrow indicates the electrons destination. That means where these electrons are flowing to, and tail of the arrow indicates from where these electrons are coming. And second one is arrowhead pointing atom must have an open octet. That means it should be able to accept electron pair or have an electron pair that can be displaced by the incoming electron pair. Usually, electrons will never flow from atoms which are electron poor. So a curved arrow will never point from an atom with a positive charge to an atom with a negative charge. Always the curved arrow pointing atom must have an open octet. Third point is, if the arrow starts at a bond between the two atoms, then that means that bond is broken. Okay, and if the arrow ends between two atoms, a new bond is formed. For example, the ionization of water. Here you can see this bond, OH, this bond, it is completely broken and this hydrogen is getting free. That is, this bond is coming back to this oxygen getting two more additional electron pairs, right? And these two electrons are flowing towards this hydrogen. That is, this oxygen is getting a positive charge, that means loss of electrons. And the first group, that the oxygen which attains two more electrons, will get a negative charge. Next is bond fission. Most of the organic reactions involves either breaking of bonds or making of bonds. So there are two type of bond fissions. First one is homolytic fission or homolysis. See this example AB, which breaks into A dot and B dot. That means both A and B got a free radical or single electrons, equal electrons. Here each of the atom gets one of the bonding electrons. They are known as free radicals. And these free radicals are highly reactive and they are electrically neutral. It can be initiated by either light or heat. And homolytic fission is the most common mode of fission in the vapor phase. They are usually initiated by light or heat, as I said earlier. And these radical pairs are electrically neutral. And second one is heterolytic fission. Heterolytic fission means you can see the product of heterolytic fissions are ions. Here, either A or B will get both of these electrons. Here you can see this arrow represents the complete transfer of these bonding electrons towards A. So that what happened, this A gets this electron pair and acquires a negative charge, and B is having positive charge because it lost the all electrons. And what is the result of this heterolytic fission? These ions. In the first one here, you can see as a result of homolytic fission, you will get free radicals. But as a result of heterolytic fission, you can see you will get the product as ions, minus charge and plus charge. And the heterolytic fission happens in such a way that the more electronegative atom will get the all of the bonding electrons and it become negatively charged. And next topic is types of reagents. There are different type of reagents that can be used for organic chemistry reactions. And the first one is electrophiles. Electrophiles, the name itself shows electron philous, electron loving. That means the reagents which are deficient of electrons. Reagents which are deficient of electrons will be attached with the other positive charge containing species to make a reaction. There are also different types. There are positive electrophiles and neutral electrophiles. Positive electrophiles means the electrophiles which carry positive charge. For example, the name itself, like I said, electron deficient means positive charge. So positive electrophiles means they carry positive charge, and examples of positive electrophiles are protons, cations, carbonium ions, etc. And what are neutral electrophiles? Neutral electrophiles are still electrophiles, but they don't have a positive charge. They are just neutral. For example, AlCl3, aluminum trichloride, zinc chloride, etc. are neutral electrophile. The only difference is they are electrophiles, but they don't have a positive charge like positive electrophiles. Next one is nucleophiles or nucleophilic reagents. Reagents which are having an unshared pair of electrons are known as nucleophiles because they will have a tendency to share the pair of electrons with electron deficient substrate. Okay, so these nucleophiles can be subdivided into negative nucleophiles and neutral nucleophiles. But previously we have seen the electrophiles can be divided into positive electrophiles and neutral electrophiles. And here we will see the subcategories of nucleophiles are negative nucleophiles and neutral nucleophiles. So what are negative nucleophiles? The nucleophiles which carry an electron pair and are negatively charged. Nucleophiles means nucleus loving. That means positive charge loving. That is, they should have a negative charge. For example, carbanions. And second one is neutral nucleophile. They are still nucleophile, but they don't have any charge. No charged, but rich in electron. Neutral nucleophiles are the nucleophiles, but they are not charged. But they will be rich in electrons and they are electrically neutral. For example, water and ammonia. Remember, the addition of a negative nucleophile with a positively charged substrate will give you a new molecule. See, a negative nucleophile, when it is attached with a positive substrate, you will get a complete final product. But when a neutral nucleophile is attached with a positive substrate, you will get a positively charged product. The product with a positive charge. So these are all some common examples of nucleophiles, negative nucleophiles and neutral nucleophiles. Here you can see halide ions, amino ions, hydroxyl ions, these are all having negative charge. But neutral nucleophiles are ammonia. Here they are rich in electrons. Nitrogen is having a lone pair of electrons here. Water, here oxygen is having excess lone pair of electrons here. And in alcohol, again oxygen is having lone pair of electrons. So they are all neutral nucleophile, but they are rich in electrons. The only thing is they are not showing any negative charge. But here negative nucleophiles, they are also having electron rich, but they shows a negative charge in the molecule.